Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today I'm going to walk you through the process to swap out our lower and upper ball joints on our 2016 Yamaha YXZ1000R. And when you're ordering up your parts from our exploded diagrams, you want to make sure that you go ahead and get the joint as well as this circlip. And notice that the top and the bottom, they're both the same part number. Now typically when you're doing your pre-ride inspection, one of the things you want to do is actually make the suspension move to see if there's any play inside of this joint, and also look to see if there's a tear inside this rubber boot. As far as the tools go, there really won't be anything special involved, and I'll call out any hand tools that I use as we go along. So let me go open up my toolbox and we'll dive into this project. Alright guys, let's get started. First thing we want to do is take off the axle nut, and that is a 32 millimeter. I'm using an air impact, but if you don't have one, have somebody hold the brakes and that should be enough to break it loose. We're going to go ahead and pull off the brake caliper assembly just at the bracket itself. The brake caliper bracket is held in by a 14 millimeter bolt. One up here at the top, another one down at the bottom. What we're going to do next is just take off this one bracket, and then we're going to bring up the caliper and just zip tie it to that front bracket. There we go. Next, let's get the steering ball joint off, or control arm, whatever you want to call it. Should be a cotter pin down here. And the castle nut is a 19 millimeter, and then there will be a washer up under that. Make sure you don't misplace it. Unscrew the castle nut to where it's even with the bottom of the joint. Then we're going to get a soft blow hammer, tap it, hopefully that'll knock it out of the knuckle. But don't remove it until we do that, because sometimes a soft blow will not do it. You may have to go with a regular steel one, as I was saying. Did I get it? Yep, it did. Good way to keep this together. Go ahead and put the washer and the castle nut onto the end of it. One, you won't lose it. Two, lessens the risk of damaging it. Now let's go ahead and get this cotter pin out of the way. Get that lower castle nut removed. Yeah. All right, stop there. Let's go ahead and take off the lower shock mount. That's a 14 on one side and a 17 nut on the other. Make life a little bit easier, getting creative with a couple of bungee cords to hold the shock up out of the way. Let's see what we've got now. Did you let go? I'd say that's a big no. What I'm going to do is I've got another nut with the same thread pitch and diameter. I'm going to put it on the end of it, and then I can hit this with a hammer. Otherwise I'd be marring the edges of the castle nut, because it's going to take a little bit more than just a gentle tap to break this loose. What I'm doing here is just lifting it up and putting it on a jack stand. That way I have more distance. I can swing the hammer to hit the nut, and hopefully this will give me enough distance where I can hit it hard enough to shock it loose out of the hub itself. I think that finally got it. I've deformed it to the point the socket won't go on it anymore. Now you see why I put a different nut on there. Had I used a harder metal that wouldn't deformed so easily, it probably wouldn't have been a problem. But I didn't, so we're going to try to use the impact to get that nut off. A castle nut would not have survived this. But it's clear now. Now let's get this out of the way. See if we can get this to pull through the hub. There we go. Now let's hold the whole shooting match up. so we can get that axle out. It wasn't absolutely necessary to remove that from the front differential. I just didn't want it in my way. So a couple of pulls and it was out of there. Another cotter pin. Now let's go ahead and get off this other castle nut, and then our entire hub will be out of the way. What I did just then was pinched the steering arm mount up against the upper control arm. That way I was able to get enough leverage to get it to release. So what we're going to do next is reattach this bungee to the shock, get it held up out of the way. We're going to take off the circlip on the top of the ball joint and then drive it out through the upper A-arm. Tell you what, where we can get a solid hit on this, I'm going to go ahead and remove the shock. Yahtzee. Well, they are out. Now we're going to go ahead, knock this one out, and now I don't care about the threads anymore because we're replacing this joint anyway. On the other end, we take out that circlip, and then we just need to drive it out. Go ahead and get this guard out of the way, and then we're going to use our vise just to give us something to hit against. We should be able to knock those out. And this is held in by 3 4mm bolts. All right, see if we can get it to knock out here, guys. Piece of cake. Next, we're going to reach in, take off this circlip, and then knock the other one out. Listen, guys, a bit of advice. If you're only replacing one of these, I think that's a mistake, because if one of them is worn out, the other one's not far behind. You don't want to take your machine apart this far and not go ahead and do it. Now, to do this, what we need to find is a collar that fits over the boot itself but makes contact with the outer edge of the joint itself. And I think this 54mm is going to do the trick. What we're going to do is spray a little silicone on it, make it easier for it to slide over it. There we go. Now, let's clamp it down in the vise best we can and then get it driven in. You can always tell when it bottoms out, it sounds different. Grab our new circlip and get it in there. So, one down, one to go. It's basically going to require the same amount of force to drive this one into the upper control arm. You could probably do it on the machine, but you run the risk of pushing that arm up and maybe damaging your headlight. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is just put this to the side. We're going to finish removing that upper control arm, bring it over to the table, get this one driven in, then we can start to put the machine back together. This should be pretty simple. We're going to remove this 10mm, which is holding the line that's going to the brake. It's just a support, just like the one that was down at the bottom. At that point, we'll remove the bolts for the upper part of the A-arm. We've got a 19mm on the outside and a 14mm on the inside. At that point, the caliper will feed through this center section and we won't have to remove the line. So, let's put this over on the table and get that last ball joint pushed in. Same trick, spray it down with a little bit of silicone, get our collar on, just drive it in. Move that to the edge, get that last little bit. There it is. That's it. Let's start putting this thing back together. Don't forget your washers. And we're going to take these to 65 foot-pounds after I get them snugged down. And when you're doing this, make sure you've got the torque wrench on the nut side. Otherwise, you're on the bolt side, and that's not going to give you an accurate reading. There we go. The sooner we get that passed through, the better. All right, we're going to go ahead and get our castle nut tighten down on that upper ball joint. We're going to take it to 51 foot-pounds. We're going to go ahead and get it snug down with this. Now you may have to force this down into the knuckle to get it to hold on to it, because it's spinning. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just going to seat the ball joint into the knuckle so it doesn't spin. Oh, so close. So once it actually bottoms out, it's game over. It's just getting it there can be a little bit tricky. Gotcha. Maybe a little bit tricky holding this still. So we're going to temporarily put the steering arm through so I can get this torqued. We can probably leave it in there. There we go. Already attached this line. Let's hold this up to reinstall the axle. There it is. Now, put a little bit more grease on the end of our half shaft so it doesn't wear out those inner seals. And in the event we ever have to replace the bearings on this, it'll come out and not be frozen. There. Starting to come together, guys. Starting to come together. So kind of the same process down here. We needed it to set in place. Go ahead and get this castle nut started. Then we're going to bring it up, put some pressure on this where it's pushing it up in there. See if that's got enough pressure to hold it. Got it. Go ahead and do 51 on that one. Then go ahead and get out our cotter pins. All right, doesn't quite line up on that hole, so we're going to move it just a little bit more. That should do it. And let's go ahead and get in our top one. That's it. Now we can go ahead and remount the shock. It's a 17 on the nut side and a 14 on the bolt side. 47 coming up. One more time down here. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and torque down the tie rod bolt. 29 foot-pounds on this. There we go. And it does have a cotter pin. And let's go ahead and get our shield back on. And it's just held in with 3 4mm Allens. Next, let's put some grease inside of our hub on the splines and also on the surface area right here so it doesn't destroy that seal too quickly. Keep the grease off the brake disc though. We'll go ahead and put this on just hand tight. Alright guys, we're getting ready to torque down this bolt, and it takes 268 pounds, and there's no way the braking system can hold it by itself. So there's only 2 ways I know of. Either A, to put a breaker bar through here and let it go against the ground, which is what we're going to do, or you can finish putting the machine together, take out that center cap, lower it down with the wheel in place, and then you can get the torque on it. But we're going to use a breaker bar to get this done. And actually my torque wrench only goes to 260, but we're going to call that good. Go till it clicks and then flex it just a little bit more to get those last 8 in there. So now we're going to just stake it in place. There we go. We are getting close. We're down to the caliper now. Get these bottomed out and then we'll torque them to 35 foot-pounds. One left to do. Well, all right guys, that's going to wrap this one up. The only thing I have left to do now, or you have left to do now, is just to remount the tire and wheel. But as you can see, I still have a lot more work to do, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Well, listen, if you need these parts for your machine or anything else, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you have any questions or comments, why don't you leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And hey, if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.